It's great.
All right. Are we on? Have we got light? Yes, we got it. Okay. Good. Charmaine, we just want to have a little talk about your position in the school as a teaching leader, administrator, and so first of all, can you tell me a little bit about your background? Where did you start? Did you teach first? Did you?
Yes. So I started teaching quite a few years ago. I spent about 15 years full-time in the classroom. So I taught first in the Peace Corps as an English teacher, though I already had my license for teaching. I went right after college. And then I taught at all different levels, 6th through university for the next 15 years. And I decided that after about 15 years in the classroom, I decided that I was ready to step out of the classroom, into an administrative position.
That's great. In your position here currently at HIS, and what are your main goals as a student? No, as a teacher leader to achieve? What makes you feel accomplished?
So I think that my main goals versus what makes me feel accomplished might be kind of two different things, right? So I look for little accomplishments as I work with teachers, so that I kind of feel like day by day we're moving forward as a school. My main goal is to improve teaching and learning for students, so that when I work with the faculty on teaching practices, on how we're implementing our ID, MYP, and DP, on how we are using instructional tools effectively. So when I work with them, the goal is always that the experience is better for the students. So that if teachers are more effective in their classroom, if their curriculum is more clearly articulated, if they know where they're going and they have the tools to get there, then students will have a better learning experience. And so that's kind of sort of my main goal here at the school. And then in terms of accomplishment, like I said, it's little kind of daily things, like if a teacher comes in and says, okay, I tried that new thing out that you were talking about, or that you suggested we do, it worked really well, or could we lesson plan together because I'm really not getting this. So those little tiny things are much more indicative of accomplishment for me on a day-to-day basis, rather than sort of waiting until our examination results come back or something sort of more abstract, though of course I look at those as well.
Yeah, and then what character traits do you personally have that you think are really good for your position?
I think that my sense of shared leadership, my sense of creating a collaborative environment in which people work, really helps to accomplish those things. So by way of example, we have a new assessment policy this year. That policy was created by a committee of people. It wasn't, just me sort of saying, here's how we're going to assess. And the people on the committee had very, very different perspectives on assessment, so that when we produce something, what we produce is really the general consensus of the school as we go forward. But it also gives buy-in for teachers as they move forward. So that collaborative sense, I think, is what really, is good and part of my personality that I think makes my work here effective.
Okay, so imagine yourself back a few years after your teaching, you went into a leadership position. What were your biggest challenges coming from the classroom into a leadership position?
That's a good question. I think my biggest challenge was figuring out how I fit into my relationships with my colleagues. I was fortunate that I took my first leadership position in a school where I had never worked. So I was really quickly, I was this IBM YPDB coordinator. That's all I did. That was my job full time. And so no one knew me as a colleague. So that was a benefit for me. But I think it was still, despite that, it was still challenging to to sort of be in that position where you walk into the staff room and people are like, oh, hi, you know, like, so you can keep talking, you know, because I think for a lot of teachers, you know, there's a clear line between the role
Yes.
you play as an administrator versus the role you play as a teacher. And especially when you have an evaluative function for people, you know, when you're evaluating them, and they're always kind of, you know, thinking about that. So you have to work really hard to develop those relationships with people that they're comfortable enough to come into your office and say, okay, let's lesson plan together, I'm not getting this. Or they feel comfortable enough to say, I'm not sure where to go with this, right? And so I think that, that piece of being friendly, being open, being caring, creating an environment that is conducive to teacher growth is I think for every new administrator, I think something that you have to really navigate and figure out the best way to get through it for yourself.
So now after a few years and here at the school itself, you feel that you've built relationships, that people are open?
Yeah, and I feel like, you know, the vast majority of people are open. The position I'm in has changed a lot since its creation, so I think that has been, you know, hard for people to kind of figure out, like, should I ask you this or should I ask Mike, the principal, this? Like, I'm not sure who to ask, you know, but that's better than people not asking at all. And so, yeah, I mean, I do think so. Yeah. Maybe you know something I don't know.
No. I definitely, from my perspective,
Yeah,
I mean, you're very accessible,
No,
your door's always open, so I can see that, you know, you've grown into that.
Yeah.
What do you think, I don't know if you can comment on this, but if you can, then do so. So teachers that are here, what chances do they have to make a step up on the ladder of leadership? And then I'm looking at everything, whether that's a position in the PTO, whether that's a department head, whether like Kate and Sarah are doing the core.
Yeah.
So what kind of positions are there where students feel they can step into?
Yeah, so for teachers stepping into leadership positions, I think that, and again, historically at the school, because this is only my second year here, historically at the school, the leadership structure was very top down. So one of the things that we're working on is trying to distribute that leadership, so really have a shared vision for leadership. So part of that is empowering department heads more. I'm giving them the ability to work with their specific department, you know, vertically. I'm empowering them to take ownership for different parts of the work we do here. So for example, with the EE, we've made some major revisions with the EE because there's just some gaps. And we made those decisions as a faculty, and heads of department said, well, can we take this forward? Yes, absolutely. You take that piece forward and you move forward, you know, working on that. So that's a bit of empowering them to take on some of that leadership role. With the creation of the core this year, and then providing a period to both Sharna and Kate for their work. Again, I mean, if you look at the emails, like they're the ones sending out emails about core, they're the ones leading core. I think if you asked anybody in the school, I would hope they would say, look, Sharna and Kate are in charge of core. Obviously, Mike, Sky, and I as the leadership team support core. Otherwise, right, I mean, I guess we wouldn't have it. I guess it's a simple answer. But I think it's pieces like that so that they have that full-on responsibility to email faculty, to ask them for surveys, to run that part of our curriculum fully, and with the authority to do so, but also the trust that they're going to make the kinds of decisions that are appropriate, do you know? And so that's part of that shared leadership. There's the opportunities there, and the opportunity is really there for those people who want to go to that next level, and we're willing to trust them with that work. Yeah.
Okay. And then one other question, I'm not sure, A, how involved you are in it, and or B, how much you know about it. So we have here this incentive to raise teacher leaders and to have them. How do they interact with students, and do students become student leaders, and do we get them ready for being leaders in society?
I think that's always definitely, it's early in the morning. No, that's definitely part of our goal. I would say that there's a lot of work for us to do in that area in terms of teacher leaders, like somebody like the head of department empowering students. Like I think that's still, that piece I would say is less there than something like student council, where we have students running, organizations on campus, student council and UN, those kinds of things. So I think through clubs, there's definitely really strong opportunities for students to take on that leadership role, speak to the work we're doing. I personally would like to see that role increased, and that's just more my style. So I would like to see students on our committees, and I mean our school-wide committees when we're reviewing policies and things. And that's not everybody's feeling, so that's just definitely my personal sort of view on progress. Well, yeah, because I do think students are incredibly articulate and they're incredibly thoughtful, and I don't think that the fear that students will want things that are crazy it hasn't been in my experience true. So I've included in my previous positions, I've included students when we did our MYP and DP evaluations, our self-studies with the IB. We had students on our committee, and they were thoughtful and articulate, and in some cases, we're in a position to not, I don't use the word chastise, but to say, you guys are really hard on yourselves. You're really doing a good job. Teachers really are doing this, this, and this, and this is my experience in the classroom. And so I think sometimes they can also serve that opposite effect, where they can, rather than getting angry with us or whatever, they can really provide and shed light onto the work we're doing in very thoughtful, meaningful ways. But,
that's great.
Little by little, yeah, and we're definitely not there yet. But I think we are making small steps towards increasing student voice and that kind of thing.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
For answering questions and giving me some insights to leadership within the school, but also in a broader as a teacher leader.
Yeah, absolutely. Any final questions? Everything okay?
This is fine, I think.
Okay, excellent. Thanks.
Cool.